show up there along with Joseph and Emma and the Smith family. And some of those people we may actually have heard about in the Book of Mormon. I don't know, the speculation, but it's an interesting thought.
I hope so.
Why would Joseph Smith and his family be all buried in the same place as these Hopewell Mound Builder people who we believe would have been the Nephites? So there's just another little tidbit of information that not many people know about. This is another image from further up from a...
It's called Answered Prayers, guys.
Took me on
Answered Prayers. I know. I believe it.
The surrounding here. This is actually looking to the north and west. You can see the river coming around. This is again Lake Cooper, and you have Keokuk is way farther on the left-hand side. Montrose is just
fulfillment of
the temple straight forward.
Jesus'
on the left-hand side. And this is actually looking a little bit closer up towards
prophecy to me. So that's why I must be a Jaredite.
I mentioned I was going to show you some of the mounds that are there. This is actually on the Curly property. This is one of the mounds there. You can see this
mix
is a
with
large mound. It's about 30 feet across, about 5 to 7 feet tall. And it's a big, circular mound there. And there's many other ones just like this one. This is just one I wanted to just kind of show you an example of that. This sweet lady is actually with the Community of Christ. This is actually the picture is taken in the basement of the Red Brick Store, where she would sequester herself down there and take the items coming from the I Dig Nauvoo program of the Community of Christ. She would take those pieces and parts and try to put them together and actually reform many of the pieces that had been lost to time and history. So she was like doing a 3D jigsaw puzzle without a picture of what it was. She had to literally put them all together. She's amazing how she could take these pieces and figure out how they all went back together again. And she would put them back together and put them, and those are all.
That's why God, Jesus say,
sure,
you gotta reborn again.
Included all the artifacts,
Thomas.
Things that are in the basement like this. I'm hoping that they did, because I hope that they will be made available, because the Community of Christ would almost never allow people to go down and take a look at that.
Through the Holy Spirit.
When you're on the tours, it was kind of an off-limits area.
Read it
so there's,
in the New Testament, kids.
But I wanted to also point out, this is something that I think is absolutely fascinating. Those of you who are familiar with the Heartland research, you know that the Woodland period basically is the time frame of the Book of Mormon here in North America. The people who are here in the Woodland period were primarily the Hopewell Mound Builder people, who we have been talking about and saying are the Nephites of the Book of Mormon here in North America. And it turns out that pretty much almost all of the artifacts that have been found in the I Dig Nauvoo program with the Community of Christ have been Hopewell Mound Builder period artifacts, as you can see here on the
middle woodland
are arrow points and so forth.
And there's the early archaic.
Other smaller ones.
That's from my Jaredite side, guys.
The early archaic period actually would be.
And there's from your side.
So that gives you kind of an idea of some of that. The very bottom left-hand corner is an actual. It's a stone drill. You can hold that in your fingers and you basically rotate it back and forth with your wrist.
If God used
you can drill through
Jared's brother,
or even leather, or other wood or other kind of materials there,
to be the first to know about his coming, he was the first man
put down roots there in Nauvoo
that God honored because he was so faithful.
And that all makes sense because of the Des Moines Rapids. Okay, so what I'm saying is that because of Des Moines Rapids, anciently, if you had big armies, like you had like a Lamanite army of 30, 40, 50,000 people.
Yeah, because according to the story,
and you needed to get them across the river to attack the Nephites, you would have to go to some place where you could cross the river on foot, or you'd have to take
the Nephites were being chased to the north.
Because basically you had 15 or 20 or 50 canoes. You bring the canoes over. You drop off those guys. The Nephites come out. They battle with them and kill those guys and send the guys back for more guys with the canoe. So obviously that doesn't work. So,
but apparently there were some Jaredites alive for them to know where that was.
Get across the river. That would mean that this place, Nauvoo, or what was originally called Commerce, would become one of the most strategic locations in all of North America.
Just like the natives were alive when 1620 pilgrims first arrived
which is not easy to just negotiate.
on the Mayflower.
It's not something that an average person can just swim across, especially not in spring and summer when the river is running high. In the fall and late summer, the river actually got so the
400 years before Joseph Smith
that people could actually cross
had his answered prayer.
And actually would do that.
Throw away your old pillow right now.
I took this is actually a good friend of mine. He actually was at the Dixon Mounds Museum. Is Alan Harn is his name. He I think is retired from there. One time when we had a group of our tour members with us, we went up into his office and he showed us this map of the area around Nauvoo, Illinois. Now, Nauvoo, Illinois is right here.
I knew it. Illinois is where Ammon.
Nauvoo is right here. And you see these red dots.
When he was a kid, saw
each red dot
in that one movie with Sid in it. Sid Liu Fao.
American remains on the sites. So these are prehistoric sites basically. And he was telling us a little bit about it. If you take a look around the Nauvoo area, you can see there's several different ones. There's kind of the big one. That's the one that was the big mound. That big mound was taken down sometime after the Saints left Nauvoo. We don't know when or who did that, but they were involved, and it's no longer there today. These are the mounds that are all along the bluff right here. The Curly residence, and these mounds are up here along this bluff and goes up all the way over here. But you see, basically, there's Native American findings all the way along this bluff. Now, what was curious is I said, well, I asked Alan Hart, I said, so what's the deal with these lines? Like this, there's a line coming down right here. There's another line that's coming across down here. This is a big line that goes up through here and then turns and goes from east to west, goes along here and creates another big line. So all of these seem to be in big lines, and this one over here on the far right-hand side, on the upper right-hand side, see that big line of red dots there? I said, so why is it that the ancient Native Americans would actually build their things in these straight lines like that? And he said, oh, that has nothing to do with what the Native Americans did. That has to do with what we do. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, because when we put in a pipeline, for example, there was a big pipeline that was put in up in the left-hand part, the upper right-hand part of this, coming down. That was a pipeline that was being put in, and before they could put the pipeline in, they had to do an archaeological survey and find out what kind of remains they might be disturbing in the process. And essentially everywhere that they went in Illinois, there were Native American remains, Native American things that were left over that they would find. In fact, Alan Harn said that today they know of at least 160,000 Native American sites in just Illinois alone.
Yeah, that's why.
And less than 10% of Illinois has even been looked at yet archaeologically.
Yeah, because it's in that movie.
Well, if you have 160,000 sites,
when Ammon first saw the Star of Jesus for the wise men to know where Jesus was born. God showed that to me. The Holy Spirit showed it to me when I watched that movie about Illinois Nauvoo.
Of these Native American sites, and you'll see that a lot of times they follow along rivers, along the banks of the rivers and so forth. They're just everywhere. In fact, Alan Harn literally said that in Illinois,
when everybody who is sleeping awakes and is which is why we're starting to do these baptism of the dead. Everybody asleep is all being baptized.
I just find that absolutely fascinating. I hope you do as well. This is actually an image of the ramp behind the Curly residence going up to a fortification up above on the bluff up above their home. They live down right pretty close within about probably 200 or 300 feet of the river there, and this is a ramp that would go up to the fortifications behind their house.
Because wars have been happening way back.
This is the Smith family cabin.
before
The,
AD.
the log cabin is on the left-hand side behind the house.
I mean,
You
look
can't
at
quite see it. You can see the well there in the front on the
the
right-hand side.
Lehi from
And this is where Joseph and Mary
Jerusalem.
lived while they were building the mansion house. Okay, so I just wanted to reiterate how amazing it is.
600
The
BC
Church of Jesus
era.
Christ of Latter-day Saints now has pretty much all of the historical sites of Kirtland that have buildings and things on it. There's a lot more of that. I want to remind everybody, though, that the Kirtland was an area that the saints were concentrated in. But amazingly, the area across the river that the Lord called Zerahemla in section
I knew
145
it.
of the Doctrine and Covenants, that area over there was called Half-Breed Tract. And after the revelation that Joseph Smith was received about Zerahemla being across the river from Nauvoo, they began to buy up that land in a big way and actually own more land on the Half-Breed Tract across the river in Iowa, in Montrose, Iowa, than they did on the Nauvoo side. So it's actually fascinating to consider that.
Zerahemla, that's...
When the saints left the area, the land records were all held there in Montrose, and there was an unfortunate fire that wiped out all the land records, so nobody was able to verify or prove that they owned the land over there. So it basically just went back up for sale and was sold. And so we don't know much about who owned property and how much property they each had and so forth over there. But it is fascinating to consider that one of the very first stakes that was set up in this dispensation was the Zerahemla, Iowa stake of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I think that's another fascinating thing. Brothers and sisters, I hope that you...
That's why it's good to follow Jesus, guys.
Of why these sites like Kirtland and Nauvoo are so important. If you get a chance to come back, I'd love to invite you to come back with me. We take tours a couple times a year, a couple times a
Yeah,
year.
and Jared's brother was the first human that God found favor with. That's why he prophesied. That's why Jesus prophesied.
If the Heartland geography model of the Book of Mormon is
and
correct,
God
what you have here in